One going. About to paste this. You guys, we are 6 days away from the end of my Kickstarter. That's exciting and also very like, and that's my proper description for the feelings that I'm having about it. I'm going to take a quick drink of water. Hello, hello. So welcome back to Asian Mental Health Talks. Mental Health Talks inspired by my Golden Goddess Affirmations. Again, 6 more days left in the Kickstarter. I pinned the comment if you guys want to support or want to share with other people who might support. Supporting the Kickstarter also means that you can get the cards. That's the nice part. They're part of the rewards of supporting. So yeah, take a look at that, por favor, please. It's hot. So you're going to hear planes and stuff because my windows are open, but that's going to be okay. I talk loud anyways. So the card that we are talking about today is I value taking the time to build on my confidence, my self-worth, and my joy. The reason why I picked this card, this affirmation for today, is because actually I've been really busy with doing community work that I really believe in. I really believe in it. I am all about community, and I'm very interested in bringing my San Diego art community, even more specifically, the San Diego dance community together. That's something I'm really passionate about. And the work that we do, we being lots of people. I'm part of Movement Catalyst San Diego. We're a grassroots group. We're a BIPOC affinity group for dancers. So the work that we do is really important. And it's been taking a lot of time. And also other work I've been doing for other community things has been taking a lot of time. And again, like I very much am proud of the work that we do. I do very much think community is important. With all that said, I've been not focusing on myself. I still have these cards. And honestly, I think, to be very, very honest, if I didn't have this deadline, I probably would have pushed this as a priority as well. But because I have 6 days, and because I said last week that I'm going to be streaming for at least 2 weeks, Monday through Friday, I am here. And I want to note that because I think as Asians, as Filipinos, as women, it's really easy for us to prioritize other things and doing things for other people. Like that's kind of ingrained in our culture, especially like women, right? We are the laborers, even like we are the people who get things done. When you look at a lot of different movements, they might not be at like the forefront, but really a lot of women have made a lot of changes in different movements. We do also a lot of the emotional labor. And that doesn't even mean like, civil rights movement on a grand scale or something as big as that, but even in an everyday capacity, the woman, the mom, is usually the person to handle the emotional labor in the household, whether or not she also has a job, whether or not she also does other things. Usually it's put on women to have that. And I think the emotional labor should be put on everybody. But just saying, like, acknowledging that this does happen. And then we stop taking time to prioritize ourselves, building up our confidence, building up our self-worth, and building up our joy, which seems like, I don't know. I know I can kind of seem, what is the word? I was like, common sense. That's not what it is, but it might seem, oh, nope, can't find the word. It's there somewhere. It'll probably pop out later. Unintuitive? No, that's not it either. I'm just going to go with backwards. That's, I think, even worse, but we're going to go with that. It might not make sense that like, oh, but if you're doing all these things, right? If you're doing things for other people, if you're strong for other people, then doesn't that mean you're like confident? Not necessarily. It could mean that you're really confident in helping other people, but when it comes to yourself, it might go wah, wah. So same thing with self-worth and same thing with joy. This is actually something I've been talking about with my therapist, that I have a very, very difficult time doing things purely for myself. And when I want to do something for myself, I'm very judgmental about it. And I have to connect it. Like doing something for myself is like weird, and I keep counterproductive. Adrienne, yes, counterproductive. No. Well, no, that works too. Close. Wait, counterintuitive? Maybe it was just counterintuitive. But yes, counter. Thank you. That was like driving me crazy. It might be counterintuitive, but like that's kind of, but that's, oh, we already passed that. So let me go forward. I was talking about how I talk about this in therapy, and how I have a really hard time doing things purely for myself, to the point where when I think about changes for myself or things that I want to do, I don't think about them in terms that like, do I want to do them? I think about things in terms of, is this good for society? Is this good for women? Is this good for whatever? And like, it's not like those things are necessarily bad in themselves either. Obviously, I just stated that I'm really into community. But like, your whole life cannot be about other people and causes for other people either, because you might not end up getting what you actually want. And that's been really hard for me. And I think that, again, that's really hard for a lot of women, because I think for us, like, if things aren't about being caring, if things aren't necessarily or very clearly about helping others, then it becomes hard to do. Like, even like, how do I say this? Like, I'm going to give an example. I'm going to use myself, I guess. Say like, I can like I do the Thoughtful Beast, and the Thoughtful Beast is only important and stuff because it stands for mental health advocacy. And so I need it to succeed because it helps to break the stigma. And I focus just on that. And I don't even just focus on the fact that like, I want my brand or business to succeed. Because I want it. Like for me, like I want to feel accomplished. And see, like there's the uncomfortability there, because like that's the thing. Like I have a problem with that being okay. I have a problem with doing things for just me. And when I was talking to my therapist about it, we were talking about how like, this really is connected, not to just my culture, but to also like past traumas and being in positions where it's just like my whole life is about taking care of someone else or making sure that someone else is happy. And even though I'm away from that relationship and I'm a grown up now, like those patterns still exist within me, where I will just keep putting myself to the back. And that's not healthy. And no one should just have to live like that. Like your whole life doesn't need to be for anyone. It doesn't even need to be for a cause. Like your whole life shouldn't be that. Your whole identity should not be something other than just you, if that makes sense. And for me, I think that's really hard to hear, even when I say it, but it also makes sense, because when I think about the people I work with and I think about, them as people, like they have whole lives. Like, the people I work with, like they're all so super into community and they donate so much of their time. We volunteer so much of our time. And, when I look at them, I don't go, ew, like, why aren't you doing enough? I go, yeah, you should take a break. You're a person. Like you have all these other things you're doing. And that's a little harder to say to myself. I go, ew, why are you taking a break? or, oh, you should feel bad. Like, this isn't even done. You need to do X, Y, and Z first. Like, people are waiting. And so it's really hard. It's something that, again, I need to work on. I need to value these things. And I do value them. I know I value them because it's just like building up your confidence, self-worth, and joy. Like, yeah, like that just sounds like a better life. Like, doesn't it? And like, at least for me, like confidence and self-worth, like they I don't know. I just didn't really start with them. I have problems with it. It's not like I haven't built it at all. Obviously I have. Like, I'm confident enough to speak like this alone in front of people. So I've built that up and I've worked on those things. Like, it wasn't easy. I still get weirded out now, but like, it's a lot better. Like, the anxiety around it is a lot more manageable, or I can look and be like, oh, part of the anxiety, and maybe part for some people, like the imposter syndrome, is like when something's new, of course you don't know what the crap you're doing. And if you don't know it, and there's a lot of, in terms of content creation, like there's so many like highly produced content and stuff. And I understand why it's really easy to be like, oh my God, I don't belong here. Why is the stuff with their phone so much better than the stuff in my phone? Like, all that can come in, all that imposter syndrome, or just like anxiety. And it makes sense. And the way to get out of that is to like, and it sucks, but like, it really is to keep going or to keep working on it, to get support so that you can keep practicing your skill, so that you build that confidence, you build the mastery in the skill that you feel like an imposter of, or at least for me, that's how it works. Like, when I've had imposter syndrome and stuff like that, I've had to like be like, okay, I know it. It's because it's new, or because, like, yeah, our self-esteem is really low. But really, like, the only way that I could see to build that is, again, to keep going, and or maybe also do supplemental work on my own time. That kind of came up when I'm thinking about dance. Yeah, because I've dealt with that presently, like imposter syndrome in like different spaces for dance. A lot of it was like being like, okay, well, let's unpack some of this. Like, how much of this is just anxiety? How much of this is, and like, why am I being anxious? And then what things can I actually do? Whether that's like, do more of this kind of dance at home, or like tell myself like, actually, some of this anxiety actually has nothing to do with dance. It has to do with like this trauma from the past, or me projecting and mind reading other people, assuming things, so that I don't feel as horrible anymore. And I can start to feel better. Yeah. And then when it comes to joy, joy is so important. Doing the things that make you happy. Like, I don't believe that you can sustain your life just doing things for other people, and that being enough to make you happy. And I feel like that's such like a female line that I've seen like in every teen movie. It's just like, oh yeah, like my mom or whoever, she's so great because she just lives for other people. And like, it sounds nice, especially like in the 90s and stuff. But like, as I've gotten older, as I've thought about things like that, that's also problematic. Like, you should be able to live for yourself. You should be able to live for yourself. That's actually like, I hit a very emotional spot for myself. So for in the past, I have been suicidal. And the way that I stayed alive was because I didn't want to make anyone else sad, or make anyone feel bad or like blame themselves or anything. And I had a cousin when I was young kill himself, and I saw, he committed suicide, and I saw the impact that had on different family members. And I remember like when I was suicidal, I was like, I don't want them to feel that though. And it took, and like, it's odd because I'm glad I had that, because obviously like that kept me alive. Like that guilt kept me alive, but also, you know, that was a really hard existence. Like living in guilt to stay alive is freaking horrible. Like that wasn't fun. And it took me a really long time to like value my life. Like, and the fact that, you know, like that finding and feeling that I want to live because I want to live, you know, like I want to live for myself, that there are things that I want to do and like that's okay. So that's also probably part of why it's really hard for me to do things. Like I do have to acknowledge that, you know, for a good chunk of my life, if not even still now, at least for some of it, like I live my life for others. It is not all bad, but it can create a lot of problems. Like if I live for others, right? Like say, this isn't a real thing. I'm just making an example. This isn't real. Like say like I only lived for my boyfriend, right? So say I only live for my boyfriend, that puts a lot of pressure on my boyfriend, right? That puts a lot of pressure, and then it can cause a lot of resentment in me if my boyfriend isn't making me feel exactly like, yeah, this is worth it because they're supportive enough or like they're doing enough, and I don't even know what that means because I just need this person to live. So I'm putting like too much pressure and I don't even know what that means. I don't know if, hopefully that makes sense. I feel like this is actually something I did, not with my boyfriend now, but for before, where like I really, you know, I stayed in a really abusive relationship because I needed a reason like to live and to stay and to believe that someone loved me in the way I needed and that it was enough. Yeah, and that's a lot to unpack. And again, like it wasn't great. It's not great to live that way. And also again, like that's another reason why I do want to value the time. That's why I want others too. Like, you know, like your time building like your happiness, like your self-confidence, your self-worth, like yourself up in any way is really important, because you are a person and you should get to have like that happiness, but also because you're a person and you're a person, literally because you're a person, you're a human being. Like when you don't have confidence, when you don't have self-worth, when you don't have joy, it's such a crappy life, and it's so easy for you to feel like crap. It's so easy for other people to treat you like crap, and then you just accept it because, well, who cares, right? Like you don't deserve anything. It's fine. Like you're just this person who lives to please others, or at least just like live adjacently, trying not to bother others. You know, when you have that mindset, like it really blocks you from all the happiness possibilities, all the possibilities of joy. So building self-confidence, all that, self-worth, joy is important. And I also want to say, like, at least for me in my experience, when I don't practice doing that, when I don't prioritize those things, it is easy for me to slip back into like really poor mental health. I don't know if it's just because that's how people are, and it's like kind of like, you know, you don't use that muscle, it weakens, or if it's just because my neural pathways are still not, I haven't how do I say this? Like, you know, I haven't overridden those behaviors from before, like my coping mechanisms of like suicidal thoughts and suicidal tendencies and that kind of behavior is still like strong somewhere in there, even though it was a long time ago. But the paths to depression, the paths to anxiety, like in my head, those neural pathways are still just stronger than the neural pathways of my other coping mechanisms or my other emotions. So for me, like, it's really important because of that, because it's really easy for me to backslide. So yeah, it is important. It's super important for everything I said, and I'll keep saying it again. Like, we're people. You're a person. You deserve to have a good life, and really, part of that deserving it and getting it means that you have to take the responsibility to do that for yourself. You have to be responsible for your mental health, for your happiness, for your joy, self-confidence, self-worth. You prioritize it and we value it because we're taking responsibility of our lives. And then from there, we can build our lives to what we actually want it to be. And I think I'll leave with that because that sounded pretty good. Yeah. So that was like, wow, what a 20-minute, what an emotional roller coaster for 20 minutes. Thank you for being here and being with me. And thank you to everyone who's been coming in on these live shows and who have been watching it later, who have been messaging me with support. Thank you for everyone who is supporting my Kickstarter. Again, I have 6 more days. There's a comment, there's a link to my Kickstarter there in the chat rooms, my Golden Goddess Affirmations. They really mean a lot to me. I did this show so that you guys could see what they're like and why they are important to me. And hopefully I can provide some validation. I can provide some comfort, or at the very least, I can provide authenticity or something like that. The truth, my story, something like that. That's helpful. So please, I have 6 more days. 6 more days in the Kickstarter. We're at 62%. So I'm anxious about it and I'm excited and I'm really grateful for all the support I've had so far. If you don't have the money to support, dude, that's cool. Please consider sharing the link or even sharing these live so people can maybe see what it's about and maybe, also support it if they're interested. But yeah, have a great weekend, guys. I will be back on Monday to stream about my cards. And then after that, I don't really know because I did my 2-week thing. So I did it. I reached my goal. And I do need some rest and to, again, prioritize some of my joy and the other things I need to do. So yeah, thank you for being here. I'll see you guys Monday. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your weekend.